Welcome back to Bat Fridays on One Comic Book a Day, as we are tackling Detective Comics number 32, Batman vs. the Vampire, Part 2. If you remember last week, Batman was facing off against the Monk, who had been hypnotizing Julie Madison, Bruce Wayne's fiancée. He managed to stop that, but at the end he was heading to Hungary to deal with the Monk, who he knew was there. I also complained that the title was Batman vs. the Vampire, even though the comic didn't seem to have any vampires. Well, I was wrong. And we'll get to that in a second. First off, the art continues to be interesting. Like, Batman does kind of look like a bat, which is always kind of the issue with Batman at times, is people are supposed to think he's like a big Batman, or man-bat, to make that sentence make sense in a way. Of course he looks like a Batman, he's Batman. But like a monstrous humanoid bat person. But Sheldon Moldoff is kind of finding a way to sort of get that idea of across. The panels are still having fun with how they're laid out, especially the first page that has like a really big Batman next to all the panels. It looks cool. So Batman arrives in Hungary to attack the Monk. I think he believes he's on this carriage, so he throws one of his gas pellets, here called choking gas, and gets in and instead finds a woman who also kind of looks like a cartoon Morticia Adams. Her name is Dahlia. She seems to be under some sort of like trance. Batman brings her back to his hotel room, which also has Julie Madison. I don't know why he took Julie Madison with him instead of just sending her back to America, where it's probably safer seeing the Monk is here, especially when she's under hypnotic suggestion and his psychic powers. By the way, Batman's hotel is a castle, and he's apparently under Batman because Julie Madison does not know Bruce Wayne's here, so I guess he didn't need a credit card. Well, it is the 1930s, but I still find that ridiculous that they would run out of room to a guy dressed as a bat. Especially if they're afraid of vampires if they exist. Like, no, you're not coming in. Like, why the hell would you ever let a guy like a bat come in? Crazy. During the night, Dahlia, under a trance, tries to walk away. Batman tries to grab her, but she flips him over, breaking out of the trance, and escapes. Batman goes and checks on Julie Madison, who has been bitten on the neck because Dahlia is secretly a vampire. So actual vampires. I don't know what it is about the vampire showing up in this comic and like supernatural threats in comic books in general. There's this idea in Save the Cat, which is sort of the definitive screenwriting book right now. It's not a good book, and it's ridiculous that it is, but there is this like idea that's argued that you can't have like two separate ideas in a movie that's pushing audiences' believability. So the example he uses is like aliens landing on the Earth, but then they get bitten by vampires and become vampire aliens. It's just a little too ridiculous. And I don't exactly agree with that, but at times that can be true-ish. And there's just something about supernatural threats in a superhero universe that just kind of feels wrong at times. Like we're dealing with science fiction versus fantasy, which are both essentially fantasy, but like if a vampire showed up on Star Trek, that would feel weird. Batman then finds the Monk's hideout, which is another castle, because there's apparently only castles in Hungary. The Monk, who I keep wanting to call the Mad Monk for some reason. Isn't that a Doctor Who villain? Immediately puts Batman under hypnosis. Really, Batman didn't think this through. He had already been put under hypnosis by this guy, and he had like no plan to deal with it. By the way, when he arrives in his bat plane, the net grabs onto it and he gets pulled down, so his bat gyro or bat plane was ineffective in this situation. Dahlia, who is on the Monk's side, well, it's really hard to tell if she's been on his side or if she just kind of goes to whoever's in power in a scene, tells the Monk to bring Julie here, so to really exact his revenge on Batman. So he does that, and Julie starts in a trance walking across a woods, probably full of wolves, so this is just a bad idea all around. The Monk threatens to turn her into a werewolf, which he claims to be. I'll get to that in a second. He then kind of turns into a werewolf, though he really just turns into a wolf that kind of looks like a badger in that scene, and he summons a whole bunch of wolves that he puts in a pit. And then he makes Batman go into the pit. Batman regains control as soon as he's falling into the pit. There's never, in Batman or Superman, like explanations of how they break like hypnosis paralysis. other than they just kind of eventually break it at an opportune time. There's no, like, specifically something special about them that breaks through it or something that's kind of, like, earned. It just kind of happens due to plot necessity. I mean, it's not the best writing. The monk Dahlia do not stand around to wait to see Batman get destroyed by wolves. They just kind of assume he's going to be destroyed by wolves. The fatal flaw of every villain. Creating a death trap and then just walking away instead of just waiting to see the dead body. Batman uses his gas pellets, but he is unable to throw his rope high enough, but he takes out the batarang. This is the first time he sort of creates like the grappling batarang, because he throws around and is able to clench onto something and pull himself up. He goes and checks on Julie, who is fine, asleep, but fine. Batman, knowing he's facing vampires, takes a silver statue he just finds and melts it using a candle, which I'm pretty sure that candle is not going to get hot enough to truly melt a statue. But I don't think it's going to get hot enough to turn into a liquid from a candle. And he lets the liquid fall into a bullet mold he has, which I guess is in the utility belt. What isn't in the utility belt? Usually not bullet molds. And puts them in the gun he just happens to have. He walks over to the coffin that the monk and Dahlia are sleeping in. This is the only time we see the monk's face, so we have to assume it's him, and he apparently shoots them both with a silver bullet in the heart, killing them. Wow, he finally used that gun against an enemy that's traditionally not defeated by guns. Unless we're talking about Blade. Man, this is just like a weird track that Batman could have been on, like a guy who fought supernatural villains and monsters. Imagine that, Batman. Imagine if that had been what Batman became. I don't know if it would be better or worse in any way. It just would have been a very different take on Batman. So was the monk a werewolf or a vampire? Because it's pretty clear he's supposed to be a vampire, and vampires can turn into wolves, but they're not werewolves. He uses a silver bullet, but silver bullets traditionally can kill supernatural threats. Usually we just kind of simplify that to werewolves, and we've added silver to killing vampires. It's been an inconsistent weakness to vampires. Like, it's not in Dracula where we get most of our vampire rules from, but traditionally silver works on supernatural threats due to myth and mythology and legend. So it works. I guess vampires are the undead, so he didn't really murder? I don't know, that's up for the court to decide. I'm not going to get all that mad at Batman killing in this comic. And still kind of fun. Bit of a mess, but kind of fun. Batman fights vampires. How can you not enjoy that in some level? And that's it from Detective Comics number 32. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Hit that bell icon to get notifications when a new video goes up. I do this Monday through Friday, but usually Monday through Thursday is a Superman comic a day, where I cover an action comic book or a Superman comic. And be sure to be here next week. Same bat day, same comic book channel. Bye!